What's up, everyone? My name is Kelsey Davis, and I'm here with hashtag AskGenZ with MediaVillage, and I'm here with Jocelyn from Foundry. And so we're going to talk a little bit about upfront, media industry, how she's kind of swayed by certain buying decisions, and just kind of see where the conversation takes us. Cool. So if you can just kind of introduce yourself more by talking about how you got into the media industry, what was your first media job, and then how did you get here?
So I'm Jocelyn. I'm a manager on an insurance brand here at Foundry. So I started in the industry 8 years ago working as a junior associate on a movie studio account. So how I got here, obviously lots of hard work. This industry is changing so much, and I've seen it over the past 8 years. So, keeping up with marketplace trends and staying relevant is really important, and you really just have to put in the work to make sure you know what's going on to ensure that what you're doing is what's best for your clients.
Yeah. So just kind of break down what you do right now as a manager, and kind of what that role entails.
So obviously I manage a team, so I have a buyer and an assistant that I'm managing, and for me a lot of it is really just keeping up with those trends and knowing my clients' business needs and what they're looking for out of their buys and what results that they're looking for is really important, and that really is kind of a big part of my day. And of course, working with my strategy team and the client team to ensure that we're satisfying their business needs.
Yeah, awesome. So you've been in the industry for 8 years, so that's 8 upfronts. Cool. So tell me about your very first upfront experience. What was that like?
My very first upfront experience, it's a while ago at this point. It was very different. Back then, you go to these presentations and linear TV was the main focus, and now it's just a piece of the puzzle, We heard a lot this week about how most of these broadcast companies are rolling out streaming services. So I think that just goes to show you that the content's there. It's just different how people are viewing it. People aren't viewing stuff by appointment anymore.
Yeah.
They're seeking out this content on their time.
Yeah, definitely. So you talked about how things have changed basically from 8 years ago at your first upfront until this year in 2019. So kind of what have you learned in that process along the way, but then also what are kind of your key takeaways from upfront this year?
So what I've learned along the way is, again, just keeping up with the marketplace trends to make sure your brand is staying relevant. You don't want to go out there and buy something for your client that's wasting their money. You want to make sure that they are in the best environment. Obviously, brand safety is something that's very big, and just relevancy. These data offerings that these networks have now really...
I was going to ask about that. So I think that was, and this was my first upfront, but I think that based on just kind of the feedback that I've been getting from a lot of people, specifically when I was at the Warner Media upfront, they talked a lot about, data-driven results.
Yes.
Like being able to now be in a position where we can say, hey, client X, these are the specific deliverables that we'll be giving you, but then this is the specific data and ROI that you can kind of expect. So would you say that's like a newer thing?
So, to be completely honest with you, with as relevant as data is in this day and age, I was surprised that I could count on one hand how many times I heard other networks talk about data, with the exception of Warner Media. I thought they were really the only ones that made sure to reinforce throughout the presentation that now that they're partnered with AT&T and Xandr, it really allows them to leverage their data in a way that they couldn't before.
Yeah. True. So then how, for you specifically, do going to upfronts and then coming back to the office, like how are you, swayed or influenced by the information that you get, and how does that kind of change the way that you, whether approach clients or kind of deal with your clients, how are you influenced by upfronts overall?
So I think it definitely helps you think outside the box a little. Like I mentioned before, this day and age, linear is really only a piece of the puzzle, and obviously there's a ton of fragmentation going on in the marketplace right now, and it's interesting to see what each of these networks are doing to combat that fragmentation. So I think after seeing all these presentations, it allows us to kind of take a step back and look at how we can best deliver results for our clients by strategically allocating our dollars differently. Like I mentioned, these data offerings, these streaming services, content's everywhere. It's just being consumed differently. So I think it really, seeing what the networks have to offer through the upfronts really allows us to kind of better place our dollars.
Yeah, cool. So you talked about going to the CBS upfront yesterday. Can you talk about just kind of what your coolest experience was there, but then also like overall this week specifically? Like, what are your coolest takeaways? Of just like, hey, this was a really cool experience, or that was a really cool thing that I saw.
I think just overall, just seeing how these presentations have changed over the years. I mean, like I said, linear is just a piece of the puzzle now. I mean, 8 years ago, that was the whole story.
Yeah.
So I thought that it's really cool to kind of see how it changes each year. And then obviously getting to ride in the carpool karaoke car and taking pictures with celebrities is great too.
Yeah, I was at CW this morning. Jonas Brothers performed. Yesterday, Warner Media, the guy from Hamilton performed. So I think it's really interesting also just kind of the wow factor that's brought into it from an entertainment standpoint to draw people in.
Exactly. I was just going to say, I think that kind of keeps people's attention. I mean, when you're sitting through these presentations all week, I mean, it's good that they have something there that kind of like keeps you in. ABC had John Mayer the other day, so I mean, I love music, so musical performance is always a plus in my book.
Warner Media brought Cohen to bash AT&T. That was pretty interesting.
Yes, that was. I mean, Conan's always great.
Cool. So then we talked a lot about understanding market trends, understanding the audience that you're trying to reach. Over the past 8 years, how have you seen personally the way that you consume media differently, or the way that you kind of interact with different services or, content differently from a behavior standpoint in 2019?
I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I'm one of those people. I'm watching Netflix, I'm watching Hulu. Obviously 8 years ago, those were not as big. I mean, people were watching linear TV still. Appointment viewing was a thing, and now, I mean, the amount of content that a Netflix and Hulu is rolling out is just, it's crazy. And I mean, that's all programming that is not appointment viewing. You're watching that on your time, which I guess is why these platforms like Hulu and Netflix are able to come out with this much content, because I mean, they don't have certain hours in a day that they can fit it in. They can put it all on their platform and people can go and consume it on their time.
I definitely think even when you look at these younger audiences, Generation Z specifically, there's an interest to be able to have anything on demand, right? So we're talking about content, but this is anything. We're a very, I want this and I want it now, and we've kind of just always had access because of growing up on the internet to kind of have whatever it is that we want, whether it's information, whether it's content, all of those things. So in understanding, I guess, that buying power, or that the consumer behaviors that I guess influences the buying decisions that a lot of you guys make, how do you feel as though, or do you feel as though you could potentially have certain prejudices or like biases towards the way in which you, I guess, promote your clients to spend dollars in certain ways based on the way that you personally consume content or engage with content? Like, do you ever think that kind of mixes?
Yes, sometimes, but I also try to take a step back and think in the minds of my client and who they're trying to target and what they see works for them. So yes, I try to keep my own biases out of it, but I also at the same time try to think as a consumer. So I'm trying to see it from both angles, because obviously as a consumer, people are consuming content so differently now. So I think in order to hit those audiences, you need to be placing ads where they're watching and when.
Definitely. And so I think it's really interesting as someone in the media and advertising space that we kind of have this double-sided lens of, okay, this is the way in which I as an individual consumer choose to engage with content or, with different platforms, but then also understanding how important it is to understand that all these different types of consumers exist and that there has to be a diversity in the way in which we target all of these different people. Awesome, cool. So then within that, kind of talk about the favorite parts, your favorite parts of like your role, your least favorite parts of your role, and kind of like what you do. Like, what do you, I guess, enjoy most, or what do you get the value out of most?
I mean, the relationships that I've built and continue to build is so important to me, and I think in business overall, it's so important. I mean, when you build strong relationships with your clients, your internal teams, your sales representatives, I mean, that helps you drive your results. I mean, when you build these relationships with a sales network, they'll help you out where you need. When you build these relationships with the clients, they trust your opinion and they value your opinion and value your expertise in the landscape. So
definitely.
I think that's something that's very important and one of my favorite parts of the job, because I love to meet new people. I love to build those connections. So definitely think that's my favorite part of the job. Then my least favorite, no one likes a Friday afternoon fire drill. It's never fun.
So you talk a lot about, I guess, the value and like the relationships that you have with your clients and how that can really drive things forward overall.
Right.
So I think with me being someone who's a Generation Z consumer, but then also content creator who just got fresh out of college, I'm kind of in a position where I'm looking for, okay, what are the ways in which I navigate this space now as somebody who's on the other side of the playing field. And over the next decade, we're going to have a lot of these Generation Z consumers kind of turn into the people who are making the decisions from like a media executive side. So then what would kind of be your advice to these upcoming Generation Z consumers who are going to kind of transition into an executive media space?
So I would say definitely it's hard work. You need to constantly keep up with what's going on in the marketplace because things are changing very fast. I mean, who knows this time next year what new offerings are going to be out there. And I just try to think 5 years from now, who knows what's going to be out there. So I would say definitely an important thing is to keep up with what's going on in the marketplace. Otherwise, you'll fall behind in this job. It will become very hard very quick. And I would say don't give up. Like media overall, when I started out, I mean, I had a hard time picking up what exactly this industry is and what it means and how to provide the best value for my clients. So I think just be patient, working hard. Don't expect to know it all when you first start. I mean, you're going to be learning throughout your entire career. And I think you just have to go in with that mindset and don't give up. I mean, this is a great industry to be in. I mean, you're seeing all this content that these providers and partners are creating. And it's just a really,
it's great.
Yeah.
Awesome. Cool. Well, like I said, my name is Kelsey here with Jocelyn, and thank you guys for tuning in for #AskGenZ. Thank you.
Thank you.
Cool.